What's going on, NBA 2K fans? It's Pete Toll, aka PT Sports 84, back with another video. NBA 2K dropped their 7th ratings update of the season. Today is Friday, February 17th, 2023. For those that were wondering, it's a day late. I think 2K, in my opinion, wanted to wait to get those extra games played from Wednesday since there was a bigger slate, and with the All-Star weekend coming up with a break, they wanted to get those in. But pretty much there's a lot of stuff in this one as far as ratings, position changes, stuff like that. What's up, Bring Back the Past, and Carrie, what's going on, guys? I appreciate you tuning in. Wanted to let everybody know there is not any retro content in this one. The retro team that's in charge, or the dev that's in charge of the retro content, does have a ton of feedback that was given. I sent over a list to one of the devs that was able to get that list to the retro dev. So I have no idea when a time frame of the retro stuff's coming in, but just know that there's a fair amount of stuff to be updated. Those that are paying attention would know, like Luol Deng, Marc Gasol, Jose Calderon, stuff like that being added in. So with that out of the way, let's get into the current roster update and the rating changes throughout that update. Like I said, there's a lot of position updates as well, so I'm going to be highlighting those as I go through the list and stuff like that. I like to address everything kind of all at once. Bring that to pass. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the city courts with the Sixers and Hornets. That's the art team. That's their decision. It's based on what they get. I have no info on that. But let's get into the ratings update. So looking at the first team we always do, the 76ers. Right off the bat, Tyrese Maxey goes -2 to an 84 overall. He's coming off the bench as a sixth man, so 2K probably wouldn't adjust him because of that. I thought at an 86 he was a little too high to begin with, so right around an 84 is perfect. Kyle, what's going on? Yeah, have a blessed day as well. I appreciate that. We've got DeAnthony Melton, 78 overall. He goes +1. He's been starting over Maxey as the two for defensive purposes, obviously. Shake Milton fell down to earth about a month ago. He finally gets a downgrade. He goes -2 to a 77. I've actually got to adjust something. Anybody that wants to follow along, I put up the written list of changes on Operation Sports. You can see those changes and kind of follow along. I had Shake Milton as a 78. Unfortunately, I copied and pasted where I had him in the last update. So no new scans that I know of, Kyle. I saw the patch update came out. I didn't really look, to be honest, because the notes didn't have a lot of players updated, so I really didn't look. I'm not the player likeness guy. I just kind of go through and do the updates sometimes. But I'm not a guy that goes searching and can go through all the hairstyles and notice a ton of differences. So, if I find anything out, I'll let you know, though. Montrezl Harrell drops down. He's been awful for them. He goes -1 to a 76 overall. We've got Dwayne Dedmon just added to the team. He goes -1 to a 76 overall. In my opinion, this is an awful signing. I'm not going to go too much into why, other than his production's not good. Now, he is better than Montrezl Harrell, in my opinion, based on the size and his defense and stuff like that. But, it is what it is. Paul Reed drops 1 to a 75 overall. He has been playing well, which I wish Paul Reed would get more playing time consistently. But, it is what it is. At the end of the day, like Montrezl Harrell being 6'7", he's basically a turnstile on defense. He gets scored on a lot, and he's not been overly productive on offense. If you look at his overall stats since he's been on the Sixers, It's not been awful, but it's not been that great either. Like, as far as production, with Embiid missing the time he has, I would have thought more would have come out of Montrezl Harrell than what's been given so far. Furkan Korkmaz goes to a 71 overall. He also gets a position change to shooting guard. And then they added Mac McClung. Those that don't know who Mac McClung is, he played at Georgetown. Very athletic. He is in the dunk contest, and he is the sleeper for the dunk contest. I feel like if he's able to hit all of his dunks and not have missed attempts, he's going to win just because of the creativity based on the field. A lot of people don't really know who he is, but I've watched him since college. He is very, very athletic. You'll be surprised at what he can do. So look out for Mac McClung in that dunk contest if he can make all his dunks on the first attempt. He's very creative. Let's jump over to Coach, former Laker and G League MVP. Yeah, a lot of people don't know who he is, including Jamal Crawford, who had no clue who he is. It is what it is. Let's look at the Milwaukee Bucks. So I would have thought Chris Middleton would have got a drop, but he did not get a drop in this update. Pat Connaughton got an increase, +2. He's now a 77 overall. He's actually been starting over Middleton as Middleton works his way back from injury. Connaughton also gets a position update to small forward. Grayson Allen goes -1 to a 76 overall. I pretty much saw that coming just because he's been kind of up and down in production. 2K likes to bump him up 1, take him down 1, kind of go there. No other changes for the Milwaukee Bucks. Kind of thin for them. I'll be curious to see what happens with Giannis and that wrist injury he suffered last night. I don't think it's serious, but you know how wrist injuries are on a shooting hand. They can be kind of finicky, and you can definitely have that linger throughout the season. Chicago Bulls. This is a team that has been bad since the All-Star break. They chose not to make any moves at the trade deadline. Now going into the All-Star break, they're 0-5, 0-6, I think, in their last couple games. Just haven't looked good. DeMar DeRozan goes -1 to an 87 overall. Nikola Vucevic goes +1 to an 85 overall. Andre Drummond, who I think the Sixers should have tried to bring back as the backup to Embiid, is a 79 overall, +1. Alex Caruso gets a position change to shooting guard. He's been playing more off the ball. It's rumored that Westbrook might go to Chicago. He's going to choose between the Bulls and the Clippers. Obviously, it's also reported that he could be a starter for the Clippers, and Paul George is there, Marcus Morris and stuff like that. So, really, they need shooting. Yeah, Tail Dog, right as you popped up, they need shooting more than they need anything else. It is what it is. The Lonzo Ball injury is key for them because of the defense, obviously, and the ability of him to be a true point guard, bring it up and shoot the three. It just hurts them. I thought Kobe White, who's been playing pretty decent, could have went up 1, but no update for him. Watch for Goran Dragic to possibly be a waiver if they get Westbrook or Patrick Beverly, one of those guys. I think that one of those guys will come in because Dragic wants to go either to Miami or Dallas. It would be cool to see him go back to Miami and play, but he also could be the third ball handler in Dallas. Going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jared Allen goes +1. He's been playing really, really well lately. Karis LeVert goes -1, 77 overall. He's been kind of in flux, goes up 1, goes down 1, that kind of stuff. Ricky Rubio goes -1 to a 77 overall. Isaac Okoro goes to a 76 overall. Yeah, Tail Dog, good observation. Phoenix could also be an option as well. Campaign, I'm not sold on him. I would take Dragic over Campaign, but that's just me. But yeah, Isaac Okoro looks like he's going to stick in the starting lineup right now. Many thought Danny Green would come in and take that starting spot, but right now it's been Okoro. We've got Jetty Osman goes +1 to a 75 overall. Osman's actually been playing the backup power forward spot since Kevin Love went down. He's injured right now, but it's time. So time's going to Dean Wade, but Osman's been playing a fair amount of minutes at the power forward spot. So maybe that's a switch they make next ratings update. Speaking of Dean Wade, he gets moved to power forward in a position change. And then, of course, there's Danny Green slotting in at the small forward spot. Finally, Dylan Windler is healthy. He came off the injured list earlier this week. Boston Celtics. So we've got some position changes. I'm going to run through those real quick. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown switch positions. Tatum's now a small forward. Brown's now the shooting guard. We've got Derek White moving to point guard. Al Horford to power forward. Mike Muscala to power forward. And then that's all of those. So then the ratings changes for the Boston Celtics. Derek White has been on fire, like 20 points a game over the last couple weeks. 80 overall, +2 for him. Grant Williams, +1 to a 77 overall. Mike Muscala has been lighting it up since coming to the team, really giving them some great minutes. He's a 76 overall, +1. And then Peyton Pritchard is kind of in and out of the rotation, -1 to a 74 overall. Blake Griffin got saved from getting a ratings decrease, in my opinion, based on his three-point shooting over the past week and a half and a couple spot starts. Otherwise, he would have been a definite drop candidate. I still think he's a little high at a 76. I think he should be around a 74, but just my opinion. 2K chose to leave him alone. LA Clippers. Kawhi Leonard gets his ratings update that he should have had last update. He goes +2 to a 92 overall. Been really back to Premier Kawhi, and that's why the Clippers have been rolling lately. I thought Norman Powell could have got a +1, but he did not. I thought Mason Plumlee could go down, but he did not, just based on him being the backup now. Bones Highland, new to the team, he does get a drop, -2 to a 77 overall. I think that's mostly due to his time in Denver. He didn't really play. His production was bad when he did because him and Mike Malone didn't see eye to eye. We get a -1 for Marcus Morris Sr. to a 76 overall. Robert Covington goes +1 to a 76 overall. No update for Eric Gordon. I thought he deserved an update based on, if you're going to update Highland on his Denver time, you should have updated Gordon on his Houston time based on his 18 points a game he was averaging before the trade. Brandon Boston Jr. gets a slight bump to a 74 overall, +2. He had stepped in and had a couple good games. Over like 3 games, he was averaging 16 points. So that's why he gets a slight bump. And then we've got Jason Preston finally got playing time. So he gets a +1 to a 71 overall. Moving over to the Memphis Grizzlies. A couple changes for them. We got Dillon Brooks going -1 to a 79 overall. Dillon Brooks has been awful shooting the ball. He runs his mouth more than he produces on the court, offensively at least lately, because he's averaging like 9 points a game on 33% field goal percentage over the past 2.5 weeks. Tyus Jones also struggling. He goes -1 to a 79. No bump for Xavier Tillman, despite doing really well rebounding the ball in the starting lineup. Luke Kennard goes -1 to a 75 overall. He's obviously going to be in the rotation. He's now the backup shooting guard, and John Conchar has switched back to small forward ahead of Zaire Williams. David Roddy, who's now out of the rotation, he's going up and down in the G League to the Memphis Hustle. He does get a bump to +1 because of his production over the past month. Was solid in the rotation until the recent acquisition of Kennard. And then speaking of Zaire Williams, he gets moved to shooting guard now. And then he is a -2 to a 72 overall. And that's all the changes for the Memphis Grizzlies. Look out for Kenneth Lofton Jr. in that G League Next Up or whatever it's called game. He can really play. I think that he could earn himself some minutes next season. I don't think it comes this season from Memphis, but he can hoop. Let's go over to the Atlanta Hawks. Just some minor changes for them. Nothing for Trae Young. I thought Trae Young deserved to go up and DeJounte Murray deserved to go up, both +1, but neither one got a bump. We did get a bump for Bogdan Bogdanovic, +1 for him to a 79. AJ Griffin goes -1 to a 77. And then we get a position change for Garrison Matthews back to small forward that he was playing in Houston. Looks like he's going to be kind of the backup to Griffin and Hunter at small forward in Atlanta. Going over to the Miami Heat, some changes for them. Kyle Lowry has just continued to, now he's injured, but he was just kind of not doing well offensively. The assists were there, but just not looking good shooting the ball. He goes -1 to a 77. Victor Oladipo has looked terrible lately. He's -2 to a 76 overall. And then Gabe Vincent goes +1 to a 75 overall. I'm surprised they did not update Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's been playing well lately. Miami's rumored to be getting Kevin Love. I don't know that I see that being the best possibility. I think Kevin Love links up with LeBron in L.A. Somehow, some way. But we'll see what happens there. That's all the changes for the Miami Heat. And like I said, nothing major to them there. Going over to the Charlotte Hornets, Gordon Hayward back to averaging about 15 a game over the past 2.5 weeks. Goes +2 to a 79 overall. Mark Williams has been playing really well as the starter at center. 77 overall, +3 for him. Dennis Smith Jr., -1 to a 75. Bryce McGowan is another one that's been playing really well in the rotation lately. +2 to a 72 overall. He gets a position change to small forward. Shpi Mykhailiuk goes to shooting guard in a position change. We get a position change. I think that's it. That's all the position changes for them. I was thinking for some reason Oubre changed positions, but he was already a shooting guard. One update I would have liked to have seen a +1 for PJ Washington, who's averaging 16 a game, but he didn't get one in this one. So we'll see maybe in a future update. Utah Jazz. Some interesting stuff with them because we'll see Westbrook get bought out, obviously. We'll see they probably want to go young. Maybe like Frank Jackson gets called up from the G League. Stuff like that. We'll see how they go with the rest of the season, but I think they're going to prioritize the younger guys now that they've highlighted Markin and Clarkson enough. The young guys will play more. But ratings changes for them. Colin Sexton goes +1 to an 81 overall. +1 for Walker Kessler, who's been phenomenal for them since starting. We've got a Kelly Olynyk position change to power forward. He's now starting there. Position change for Talen Horton-Tucker to point guard. +1 for Rudy Gay, who's back in the rotation at power forward. He goes to 75 overall. Ochai Agbaji goes +1 to a 74 overall. Position change for him to shooting guard. He's now the backup. Simone Fontecchio, position change to small forward for them. And then, as you can see, Johnny Juzang goes to small forward as well. Leandro Bolmaro was just waived yesterday, so he's now in the free agent pool. He got a position change to shooting guard, but it doesn't matter for the Jazz because he got waived. So, moving over to the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox makes the All-Star game, and he gets a +1 to an 88 overall. He's looked really good. Not shooting the three great, but doing everything else well. Kevin Huerter struggled lately, goes -1 to an 80. Same for Harrison Barnes, who's averaging like 12 a game over the past 2.5 weeks. Goes -1 to a 79. Terrence Davis goes +1 to a 77 overall. He's been playing well lately. No drop for Chimezie Metu, who I think is way overrated. We'll see what happens. Next update. Let's move on to the New York Knicks. I thought Jalen Brunson's been playing really well. Hope he makes the All-Star team as an injury replacement for DeMar DeRozan. We'll see. But ratings update. RJ Barrett, -2. Finally happens. They finally downgraded Barrett based on his season production. I thought it was overinflated by 2 points at least. So he goes down to earth. Who's been playing phenomenal since coming over from the Portland Trailblazers is Josh Hart. He gets rewarded with a +1. Obi Toppin goes -1 to a 77. He's been struggling. Jericho Sims, -1 to a 76 overall as well. He's been struggling throughout. Still no update for Miles McBride. McBride is not the greatest shooter, but he's a good playmaker, plays good defense. I thought he deserved at least a +1, but no update to him. Let's go over to the LA Lakers. This one is a little controversial. Obviously, talked about it in my last video. Not going to keep talking about it. LeBron's still a 98. Gets position change to small forward. D'Angelo Russell gets a position change to shooting guard. He was a shooting guard in their defense in 2 out of the 3 games that he's played, but he's now back at point guard. So hopefully that change will be made in the near future to put him back at shooting guard. We've got Rui Hachimura going -1 to a 78 overall. He's now the backup to Vanderbilt, who's now the starter. Mo Bamba is not a 78 in my opinion. I think he's way too high. I think he should drop down considerably in rating, but we'll see what happens. Who did drop in rating is Dennis Schroeder, -1 to a 77 overall. He's now the backup point guard behind Russell. I thought Malik Beasley should have went up 1, but 2K did not think so. Finally, who got an update is Troy Brown Jr. He goes +1. He had been in the rotation basically all season. He gets rewarded with the +1. Devon Reed gets switched to shooting guard in this update, and then Max Christie gets switched to small forward. No ratings changes for either of those. We go over to the Orlando Magic next. Just some small changes for them. No update for Wendell Carter Jr., who's been playing really well. Was surprised there, but it is what it is. Bol goes -2 to a 78 overall. Not playing as electric as he had been in the past. Not bad, but just not as, leaned on for offense, stuff like that. So Jonathan Isaac switches to small forward. That's what he's been playing. Just to note, the archetype for him is weird. Two-way shooter. He is not a shooter at all. That's just kind of funky archetype for whatever it is. Jalen Suggs goes +1 to a 77 overall. And then we get Caleb Houston going +1 to a 71. He's been playing well, shooting the ball in the rotation since Isaac's kind of been in and out of the lineup with injury management. Chumo KK gets a position update to power forward as well. That change came because Isaac went to small forward, so they just flip-flopped. Goga Batazde is now on the team. If anybody didn't notice, that was put in like 2 days ago in an update. He signed. Dallas Mavericks. This team's interesting. They get Kyrie. Obviously, he's dynamic on the team, but he, it's just going to have to take time to build chemistry overall for each of them, like him and Luka, to be, know who's going to take the shots when, all that kind of stuff. Got to play defense as well if you want to win, if you're Dallas. But anyway, so we have the Mavericks. No update for Kyrie. Speaking of, I thought he could go +1. He's been playing well. Josh Green does get the boost. He is a 78 overall, +2. Position change to small forward. He's now starting. Reggie Bullock now starting as a small ball power forward, so he gets that position change as well as an update +1 to a 77. Dwight Powell +1 to a 77. -1 for JaVale McGee to a 76. He's been playing well in his limited center minutes, so can't be mad about being a 76 overall. Just kind of where he is and how 2K scales the center spot. Do I agree being that high, but based on how they scale that center spot, based on the formula, that's about right. And then Jaden Hardy gets a +1 to a 73 overall. Frank Ntilikina, position change to point guard. Justin Holiday, position change to shooting guard. Let's look at the ratings here. I did notice the speed with ball went up 10, and then the speed went up 16 or 13 for Justin Holiday to adjust. They're still a little low for me, but it is what it is. Brooklyn Nets, man, they look like a different team. They look like they're having fun, definitely. Mikal Bridges switched to shooting guard. He goes +1 to an 85. He's now basically the, I guess you could say, leader of the team, so to speak. We get Cam Thomas gets a big boost to a 79 overall. He was a 75 previous, so he goes +4. Ben Simmons moved to center. Backup center now. Goes -2 to a 78. He's fallen off a cliff. Hopefully he can come back next year. I think it usually takes about 2 years with a back surgery. So I'm not going to write him off yet, but it's a struggle right now. Seth Curry, 78 overall, +1 for him. He's kind of now actually the backup point guard on the team, which is interesting because he's not really a point guard, but that's how they have to fit him in. Dorian Finney-Smith goes +1 to a 78 overall. +1 for Joe Harris to a 77 overall. We get a -1 for Patty Mills to a 75 overall, and then -1 for Day'Ron Sharpe to a 73 overall. Still think they need another piece on this team moving forward that can kind of fit into their rotation, but we'll see what happens. I like Brooklyn moving forward. Still think they make the playoffs, whether it's the play-in or whatever it is. Still think they get in there. Team's good enough to do that. Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray +1 to an 85 overall. Michael Porter Jr. +1 to an 82. Thomas Bryant goes -2. Now that he's a backup, he's a 79 overall. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who should have been considered for the three-point contest over Julius Randle, who shoots 33%. He's a +1 to a 77. Bruce Brown -1 to a 77. Then we have Reggie Jackson signed to the team. Zeke Nnaji goes -1 to a 75. We get Jeff Green -1 to a 74. Christian Brown +1 to a 73. Look out for him moving forward. He's a player. Vladko Konchar +1 to a 73 overall. And so that's all the changes for Denver. Let's move over to the Pacers. -1 for Tyrese Halliburton. 88 overall for him. The Pacers have been struggling lately, so I could see that. Aaron Nesmith, position change, and a +1 position change to power forward. He's starting, has been since December. 77 overall, +1 for him. Jalen Smith, kind of out of the rotation, spot minutes there. 75 overall, -2 for him. Jordan Nwora, +1 to a 73. He's actually getting spot minutes at power forward in the rotation since coming over from the Bucks in a trade. We have the New Orleans Pelicans. Trey Murphy III starting for Zion. It looks like he'll probably start. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Zion out for the rest of the year. Don't kill me by saying that, but you know how David Griffin and the team is about holding Zion's injuries, kind of keeping him super healthy. Whether you agree or don't agree, if you're Zion, you have got to be super frustrated with management. I know you, like Zion himself, has to stay healthy, but if he's ready to come back like he was last year and they held him out just to hold him out, that's got to be super frustrating if you're looking at a long-term stay in New Orleans. I get the cautiousness because it's Zion, that's your franchise star, but at some point you just got to get him out there, because you need wins. Are they going to tank to go backwards? It'll be interesting to see the second half of the season because they haven't been winning. Let's say that. Jose Alvarado +1 to a 77 overall. Najee Marshall gets a drop, minus 2 for him to a 76 overall. I got to check Josh Richardson. I think I might have missed Josh Richardson a +1 on my list. I'll have to double check that for sure. I think I might have missed him because I believe he was a 76 overall before, but I'll double check. Jackson Hayes -1. He's out of the rotation. And then that's it. I'll be looking forward to see Dyson Daniels come back, maybe for some defense in the rotation moving forward. Detroit Pistons. Jaden Ivey +1 to a 79 overall, +1 for Isaiah Stewart to a 78, -1 for Alec Burks to a 77, +1 for Hamidou Diallo to 77. Killian Hayes has been struggling shooting the ball a lot lately. Goes -1 to a 75. James Wiseman looked good with some minutes. Hopefully he gets consistent minutes as the backup to Duren for the rest of the season. And Corey Joseph goes -1 to a 73. Detroit's going to tank out the rest of the season, so we'll see how many minutes James Wiseman can put together and if it's productive. I hope so. I like Wiseman. Moving over to Toronto Raptors. So they get a position change for Scotty Barnes to small forward now that Pascal Siakam, not only a all-star, but gets a position change to power forward. Gary Trent Jr. goes -1 to an 80 overall. OG Anunoby is injured right now. I think he'll start over Trent Jr. I think 2K thinks that as well. That's why they made a position change for Anunoby to shooting guard. You could argue Barnes is a shooting guard, but it is what it is. Jakob Poeltl has played well since coming over to the Raptors, but not enough to get a ratings update by 2K. Chris Boucher goes +1 to a 79 overall. No update for the basically starting center right now, or backup center, I should say, now that Poeltl has a starting job. Precious Achiuwa has been playing really well. I thought both Achiuwa and Poeltl would go up, but neither received an update. Delano Banton gets a -1 to a 75 overall. And then snuck in there was Juancho Hernangomez, -1 to a 70 overall. And then we get a position change for Joe Wieskamp to shooting guard, and then Ron Harper Jr. switches to small forward. We have the Houston Rockets. They have been not looking great as far as just overall chemistry. A lot of people are blaming Steven Silas. I think it's management telling Silas what to do, and that's why Silas was hired to begin with, just to kind of be a puppet, on some strings. This is my opinion. Jalen Green goes -1 to an 84. I thought Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun were overrated at least 2 points. I thought Sengun could be around an 83, staying there for sure. Green should be around an 82, 83, but that's just my opinion. Kenyon Martin Jr. or KJ Martin's going to be in the dunk contest. He's another one that's favored in the contest. +2 for him to a 79 overall. Tari Eason now going to be in tonight's Rising Stars game. He replaces Jalen Duren. He is a +1 to a 78 overall. Good for him. Jabari Smith Jr. Man, he's struggling shooting the ball lately. I hope he turns it around in the second half of the season. I like him. Josh Christopher goes +1 to a 75 overall. And then Ty Washington gets a +1 to a 72 overall. That's all the changes for the Rockets. We'll see how the second half of the season goes. Obviously not going to win games very much, but let's see what production we can get out of the young guys. Going over the San Antonio Spurs. Trey Jones drops 2 to a 78 overall. He's been struggling. Who has not been struggling is Malachi Branham. He gets a +3 to a 76 overall. We have Keita Bates drop, position change to small forward. Devontae Graham has been hooping since coming over to the San Antonio Spurs. +1 for him to a 75. Doug McDermott goes -1 to a 74. Not your average. Jalen Green went down. If you didn't notice, Jalen Green was shooting poorly from like the January 25th update all the way to like 3 games ago. He was shooting poor. He was averaging like 16 a game, shooting 35% from the floor. But the last couple games he's turned it around. I guess they decided just to give him a small decrease based on the average stats. That would be my guess. But yeah, that's what it is. Blake Wesley goes -1 to a 70 overall. Yeah, he has a groin injury. I don't think they took into account the injuries because if you look at like injuries, like Jaylen Brown's still healthy. You got DeMar DeRozan's still healthy. They didn't take into account any injuries. They did not injure them in this update. So it is what it is. But that's the Spurs update. Julian Champagnie was signed yesterday to a 2-way contract. He's claimed off waivers, I should say, on the 2-way contract. So they fill that role for them. Phoenix Suns going to be a totally different team once KD comes back. Speaking of KD, he slots now in at small forward. Position change for him. DeAndre Ayton goes +1 to an 84. Position change and an overall change for TJ Warren. Now a power forward, and he goes -1 to a 79. Torrey Craig is the starter right now at power forward. He goes -1 to a 76. Terrence Ross on the team. We have a overall change for Damian Lee, -1 to a 75 overall. They still need one more piece, I think, on the team in the rotation. Just my personal opinion. Ish Wainwright goes +1 to a 73 overall. Could they be a sleeper for Kevin Love? We'll see. I don't think they need him, but just my opinion of maybe watch out for that. OKC Thunder, just 2 ratings changes for them. Jalen Williams, J-Dub, goes +1 to a 78. And then Jalen Williams, J-Will, goes +2 to a 75 overall. He's been really hooping, hitting threes as well. So good to see that on the team. Position change for Lindy Waters III to shooting guard in this update. And that's pretty much it for the Thunder. Just a light update for them. Minnesota Timberwolves, light update for them as well. Mike Conley Jr. goes +1. Really look like a different team so far. Just getting the ball to everybody in their spots. It's because of Conley, in my opinion. We get a position change for Jalen Noel back to shooting guard. Taurean Prince, position change to power forward. No ratings changes for either, though. We also have a position change for Wendell Moore Jr. And then last but not least, position change for Josh Minott. Josh gets a overall update, +2 to a 70 overall. He's actually played some spot minutes here and there. Look pretty decent as an athletic wing moving forward. So we'll see what happens. Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard, I'm surprised, only goes +1. He's been killing it, like 38 points a game over the past 2.5 weeks. I thought he deserved to go like +2 at least, but 2K puts him +1. Who goes -1 is Jeremy Grant to an 82 overall. Drew Eubanks goes +1 to a 77. Nasir Little -1 to a 76. Matisse Thybulle goes +2 to a 76 overall. We get a position change for Trendon Watford. He's now the backup to Drew Eubanks since Yusuf Nurkic is out. We get a +1 for Shaedon Sharpe, who I thought should have been in the Rising Stars game, which would have then put him in the dunk contest, but he pulled out of the dunk contest once he wasn't into the Rising Stars game. It is what it is. No update for Cam Reddish, who's looked good since coming back. Position change for Keon Johnson to point guard. And then we get Jabari Walker, position change to power forward, and he goes +1. Last but not least, position change for John Butler Jr., who's very tall but very thin. Let's put it that way. Going over to the Golden State Warriors. Klay Thompson gets an upgrade, +1 to an 86 overall. It is what it is. You know how I feel about 2K and their ratings with the Warriors. Jordan Poole, position change to point guard. He's starting with Steph out. Andrew Wiggins drops again in this update, -1 to an 82 overall now. Position change for Dante DiVincenzo. We get a update to Ty Jerome, +1 to a 76, along with +1 for JaMychal Green to a 76 as well. He's been in the rotation. Had a little scary wrist injury, but it wasn't anything major, so he's been, back playing. And then Anthony Lamb, who's been struggling, still somehow in the rotation, but he's struggling, -1 to a 74 overall. And that's all the changes for the Golden State Warriors. We move over to the Washington Wizards. Kristaps Porzingis is now tied with Bradley Beal for the top overall on the team. He's a +1 to an 87. -1 for Kyle Kuzma, who has struggled even before being injured, but now he's back. And he scored a bunch last game, but they didn't account last night's games into this ratings update. We have Denny Advia looking really good lately, +2 for him to a 77 overall. Kendrick Nunn also looking good lately. He goes +1 to a 75 overall. Jordan Goodwin, -1 to a 74 overall. He is out of games eligible to be played until he's converted to a standard contract. Right now he's on that two-way, as you can see. And then for those that don't know, Quentin Jackson was added as a two-way as well. One change I did catch in the free agent pool is Kevin Love went down -1 to a 76 overall. He had already dropped last update to a 77. Now he goes to the -1 to a 76. So that is the ratings update, the 7th official ratings update for 2K23. Be prepared to not have an update at all next week because nothing's going to change because the All-Star week, the teams take off, stuff like that. Unless there's like a major signing, I would not expect anything unless it's like Westbrook or Beverly or Wall or Kevin Love, like any of those signings added in to roster updates. I wouldn't expect anything major outside of that. But yeah, like I said, a fair number of changes, fair number of position changes as well across the roster. So overall, solid job by 2K in this one. As always, look for the official thread if you're interested in badge changes. The Real 2K Insider usually goes into detail with those badge updates because he keeps all of the updates in his document. If you don't know, the Real 2K Insider is John Markish on Twitter. He does his own ratings updates based on 2K's official scale, kind of gets them in line based on production. He has a document you can purchase. I believe it's like $20, and you can purchase it and get you all of the relative info throughout the season. And then you can kind of follow along with his work. But he does a great job breaking down the badges that change in each update. So usually he posts it underneath my written thread on Operation Sports. So please go there and check that out. Appreciate everybody watching. I hope everybody enjoys the Rising Stars game tonight, the All-Star Saturday tomorrow, and then the All-Star game on Sunday. I got to be honest, it's my least looked forward to Saturday night in a while because the three-point contest now has Julius Randle in it and some others that are suspect. I would have liked to have seen Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Isaiah Joe, Keegan Murray, any of those over Julius Randle, but it is what it is. Buddy Hield's probably the favorite, I would assume, in it, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, I hope everybody enjoys the weekend. Stay safe Thanks for watching. Don't forget, please hit the like button on this video if you haven't already. All 39 of you watching, please take that second to hit the like button. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. Please subscribe to the channel. I put this kind of content out weekly. Anytime we have a player likeness update that's significant via patch, that's out as well. And then I do some custom roster videos as well. So if you enjoy that content, hit that sub button. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.